I will return to this discussion about topography later, with a slightly broader definition that encompasses geographical sites of many scales, including domestic interiors, and considering cultural and political situations as topographies as well. Let me first speculate, however, on what might we consider to be poetry, and where might this reside in the architectural experience. The etymological derivation of the word poetry is complex, but gives us a few clues. The word poet comes from the Greek poetes, and this is thought to derive from poein, meaning to make. A poetess is a maker, producer, author, a doer, or performer. In ancient and medieval times in Europe and throughout the Mediterranean regions, poets were traveling singers, actors, and performers who were retelling stories in song, dance, and rhyme. The word poesis, from the ancient Greek, is the activity in which a person brings something into being that did not exist before. However, as we know, not all things that are made can be considered poetry. If I make a loaf of bread, or a house, or if I make my bed, each of these things can be done with passion, care, and a certain creativity. But it is seldom that these everyday things that we make are poetic. It seems to me that a poetic experience happens when we are, perhaps only for an instant, transported beyond the free and everyday bodily material existence of worldly things to a place where imagination never has to give way to the conditions and limits of life as we know it. In Plato's Symposium, Diotima describes how mortals strive for immortality in relation to poesis. In the bringing forth upon the beautiful, there is a kind of making, creating, or poesis. In the Genesis, there is a movement beyond the temporal cycle of birth and decay. In the Timaeus, Plato regards physis, or the principle of growth and change in nature, as the result of poesis. However, Aristotle considers poesis as an imitation of physis. So whether poesis or poetry is the human ability to affect growth and change in nature in an attempt to attain a godlike state of immortality, or it is an attempt to imitate the complexity and unattainable beauty of nature that is the creation of God, and or those forces and powers that are completely beyond human comprehension, it is something to do with transcendence or detachment from the bodily conditions of the world we live in. Martin Heidegger refers to physis as a bringing forth, as emergence, using this term in its widest sense. He explained poesis as the blooming of the blossom, the coming out of a butterfly from a cocoon, the plummeting of a waterfall when the snow begins to melt. These are threshold conditions, a moment of ecstasis,